Good evening, Awoken. Welcome back for. Actually, I should say Happy Awoken Wednesday, Awoken. Glad to have you back on this Awoken Wednesday. Excited to. One moment, sorry, the X feed is giving me a little bit of a hassle. An error occurred on X. This is usually temporary. Wait a moment, then try again. Oh well. We'll just keep trying. Ultimately, doesn't matter that much at the end of the day. Okay, where was I? However, let's hop right into things. So, happy Awoken Wednesday. Awoken. I'm your host, Aulden S. Nance. As always, thrilled to be back with you on Awoken Wednesday. We have an important geopolitical issue and topic for you again tonight. I'm sorry, this X thing is starting to bug me out. We're just going to put that in the corner, put that to the side. Not going to worry about X right now. Who cares? Okay, so my name is Aulden S. Nance. As always, your host. Thrilled to be back with you on this Awoken Wednesday. Sorry for the kind of screw up there with the beginning with X. Just a little frustrating that the service continually fails to operate no matter how expertise the operation claims to be. And actually, I don't even see the... Excuse me another moment. I don't even see the logo in the corner. And this... just give me a split second, please. Okay, there we go. All right. Very frustrated with this platform that we continue to implement time into is failing once again. Okay, we're just going to restart at this point. The last 2.5 minutes, screw that shit. We're just going to pretend that we're restarting right now. Good evening, Awoken. Welcome back. Happy Awoken Wednesday, and welcome back to another episode of Awoken with Aulden. As always, I'm your host, Aulden S. Nance, and we have a incredibly important geopolitical topic to get to you on this Awoken Wednesday. Tonight's big topic, we're going to be talking about the Kurds, and the Kurds are the largest ethnic minority that is stateless as of today. In general, this population ranges from 25 to 35, around 40 million people at the highest estimate. This population today lives primarily in Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. 4 big countries there, right, that we will be discussing a lot tonight. We know Turkey is a NATO, Syria, civil war / Al-Qaeda at the helm of the regime, Iraq, a dysfunctional state since 03-06, and then Iran under grave threat by the United States and Israel through the 2026 conflict / war. So these 4 countries all have their own problems. An additional problem is Kurdistan. This original, around 1920, during the Sèvres treaty, proposed that there would be this independent state. Never came to fruition. However, as we'll learn tonight. So the Kurds, a stateless people of tens of millions of people without a state, the world's largest ethnic minority without such one. Okay, so did a little brief overview of the topic. Okay, let's go to, we have our first comment of the evening at Lopez. What's up, Martin? All right, yeah, it was very nice to meet you this morning. Thank you once again for hopping on the stream tonight. Martin says, yo, 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 everybody in the chat. Happy Awoken Wednesday once again. And another comment here, let's go to says, we have effed the Kurds over before in the Syrian war, my opinion. All right, and I think that's a great point. An initial readout of this group is the Charlie Brown football analogy, I'd say. Whether it's the Iran-Iraq War of 1980 through 88, or Gulf Wars, or Iraqi freedom, or any other conflict, everyone makes the call to the Kurds. Hey, Kurds, we'd love if you'd be a proxy for us in this conflict, and we'll promise you a state. And by the time they try to kick the field goal, Sally will thrust the football up, and they totally whiff and get screwed over, effed over, in Martin's words, each and every time. So excited to be discussing the Kurds with you this evening. However, if it's your first time on the live stream, if it's your first time listening to this, no matter which platform you're on, I would love to encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're on Spotify, Rumble, hit that follow button. If you're on Facebook, X, Instagram, or Twitch, also please follow/subscribe to those channels. We are on seven different platforms, ladies and gentlemen. So, would love to connect with you on all of those platforms. A little recap of this week. We did a little election live stream for Mississippi primaries yesterday evening. Discussed a little bit of it was also the Georgia 14, GA 14 congressional special election, general election. We saw the Democrat and the Republican. There was a third candidate, but a second GOP member. And the primary was divided as the general election was divided as a result. And we saw a runoff occur. Come, I believe, in May or sometime in April even, there will be a runoff in the Peach State for former America First Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat. Sad to see her go at the beginning of this year. Okay, so we got a active comment section tonight. We already read over Martin's comments, but we got at Ken. It says, good evening, Aulden. I know nothing about the Kurds. And then adds, you're on Rumble too. Yes, sir. We are on Rumble as well. I usually upload these videos. We don't go live on Rumble yet, at least. The platform I have is more of, it can help me go live on Twitch, YouTube, and X at the same time. But Rumble is not one of those included platforms. So I usually will upload the episodes such like this onto the Rumble platform the next day or something like that. And we'll get content out to Rumble. So great question. Yeah, would love if you guys followed on Rumble as well. Haven't put as much, I would say, maybe growth or marketing time into that channel. However, that's more of a kind of a secondary thing, right? YouTube, we're trying to push. We want to get up to 500 subscribers on the YouTube channel, and would absolutely love your support. And a couple other comments from Ahmed-D2B says, Kurd, I believe we're going to be talking about one of those individuals you mentioned. Might be a different language. It can't dissect every single word. However, I believe Ahmed slash D2B is discussing an individual in Kurdish history, Abdullah Öcalan, has, or whether it's either that individual or Muta Fubarzani. Muta Fubarzani has been in. He's still imprisoned today, even. So a pretty historical figure within the Kurdish community. So thank you for the comment. Thank you for joining the stream, Ahmed, tonight. Correct, yes. Yeah, he's been in prison a long time. So, yeah, and I think the Kurds, that's why I wanted to talk about the Kurds, right? It seems to be this incredibly important ethnic group within the Middle East they're there, however, they're not recognized by international bodies. They're kind of their own deal, right? So, thank you for joining the stream this evening, and we'll definitely be talking about the Kurds a little bit later. Just wanted to get on a little bit of a recap from, we talked about last night's anchor show. However, every day this week, we have been walking around Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, here in the United States. We've been taking your questions, getting to meet new people, such as Ken met Ken last week, and Martin met Martin earlier this morning. So we're developing quite a cool crew of America First patriots that are committed to our nation and our sovereignty and our civilization. And as well, I believe Ahmed was on the stream this morning as well. So want to give a big thanks to everybody that is on the stream right now for your support. Would not be here without you, even though we're still under 500, right? We're still in that growing phase, right? We're building people such as yourself that are committed, dedicated, loyal, excellent, and that will help this channel enter the promised lands, and you guys will be here every step of the way. So thank you very much for being here this evening. So yeah, last couple morning streams, we've been walking around DC. I've been taking your questions. We've been hanging out. I've been showing you artifacts, monuments, buildings, critical infrastructure, people. On the last couple minutes of the stream this morning, didn't want to interact, but we saw Montana Senator Tim Sheehy this morning. So there's that. You always want to check into the morning streams as well. We're always running into maybe important people each and every day. Alrighty, I think I got the housekeeping situation out of the way, where, yeah, we talked about Iran this morning, so don't need to go a whole lot into Iran right now. We'll stick primarily with the Kurds. We'll have a fun little dessert kind of bonus show after the main topic of the Kurds tonight. So before we're going to hop into the thick of things and we will discuss what is, and we'll try X one more time. All right, let's just go ahead and put that to the side then. Yeah, let's pull up the slide deck for tonight, and we'll hop right into the main deal. All Alright, I need to go back to this as well, I guess. There we go. I'm not sure why everything ultimately deleted. However, okay, everybody. So, tonight's big topic that we're going to be honing in on and really trying to understand this group's significance within the Middle East as a whole. We talk about the Middle East all of the time on the channel, so we know it's a pretty important group of individuals, an ethnic group, a culture, but a stateless people officially in the UN, right? So a nation without a country, right? We're going to be learning about the Kurds here right now. Let's get very simple with things. Who are the Kurds? An ethnic group native to the Middle East, right? We discussed in the intro, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Turkey. Four major countries that the population resides in. 30 to 45 million individuals, people are within this culture and community at, once again, the largest stateless nation in the world of people. And they have their own distinct languages, cultures, identities. One of the things that seems to hinder the group is that there isn't an all-out, unified, agreed-upon identity or language or culture. There's many conflicts between the Kurds that live in those countries. Within the 4 individual countries, there's always beef, right? So we'll learn a little bit more about that here in a little bit. Kurdistan, the Kurdish homeland, right? The map signals to us that you have Western Iran, northwest Iraq, northern Iraq, the east, southeast, east Turkey, and and within parts of Syria as well. So four countries where they hold significant populations within. One of the reasons that intrigued my interest and sparked my suspicion and historic interest within the Kurds is that we hear a couple of days ago, I should say, we hear maybe whether it's the Secretary of War, the Vice President, the President, mention that the Kurds may be fundamental in toppling the Iranian regime. As of right now, we have been watching this war play out for the past, coming up on 2 full weeks now, is that the Iranian regime is holding tough. There have been maybe cracks within the society and the government, but as of right now, the regime is sturdy enough to continue fighting another day. And the United States and Israel, they've had to reevaluate future tactics with competing against the Iranians. So we're going to be looking into that here a little bit. There were discussions of a ground force being sent in through Western Iran to attempt to topple this regime. However, we're going to try to learn a little bit more why the Kurds determined it was not in their best interest. Okay, so Kurdistan means land of the Kurds. The land of the Kurds, right? That's, we're going to say it's our territory, our not property, but land, homes, community, family areas, bonding areas, and activities where the historical homeland has always been. We're talking about the Zagros Mountains and Iran, the within the bordering Iran and the Taurus Mountains as well. However, and when it comes to the United Nations or other international bodies, the Kurdish homeland is not recognized at all. So they're still fighting for their independence, trying to get territory, trying to get their own borders. And we'll just kind of have to see what the Kurds continue doing and their efforts towards this accomplishment / goal. Okay, got it. Don't want to ignore our Muhammad friend, Ahmed-D2B. Read a couple of comments here. Kurds can and will join NATO. USA and Israel don't need Turks. We can be good allies. But we can't breathe in the Turkish part of Kurdistan. Who peaks against government, he finds him in prison. So cruel, but we can't breathe in Turkey part of Kurdistan. Who speaks against government, he finds him in prison. So cruel. Okay, a duplicate comment. And then Iran is the boss of Shiite terror. At the same time, Turkey is the terror boss of the Sunni world. Interesting comments. Okay. Appreciate your insights, Muhammad. Would love, please continue. You seem to be quite well versed about the Kurds in this region. So would love your opinions and insights throughout the evening. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone else that has commented so far. Would love if you guys rejoin our friend Ahmed here in the chat. Here, let's see real quick. All right, there we go. Dope analysis, bro. However, all right, great. Okay, just want to check the cell phone real quick. So let's head to the next slide. The Kurdish population under the Ottoman Empire. Here's where we accelerate in time and history at a rapid rate, right? The regions that the Kurdish people resided under were included and conquered / controlled by the Ottoman Empire for centuries, for an extremely long period of time. A lot of these areas are ruled or were ruled by Kurdish tribal leaders, right? So, and they also maintained their own language, culture, tribal structure, other factors and sectors within their society. However, the Ottoman Empire allowed for some limited regional autonomy. However, we saw around World War I, right, the Ottoman Empire, it folded, it totally collapsed. House of Cards went down, and it reshaped the Kurdish history, right? And we're going to be here soon talking about a couple of treaties that are key to the Kurdish Kurds and their history, some of their maybe times that they have been felt betrayed or that it's not good enough for them. World War I, it does reshape the Middle East, right? You have whether it's the British Empire, the United Kingdom, British Empire, other great powers. The Ottoman Empire folded, and once they went down, the borders began being redrawn across the Middle East. there were, once the Ottomans went down, the new states, new territory was created, redrawn, and maybe for the first time in a long time, if not ever, the Kurdish leaders were not anticipating independence, but believed it was the strongest that it could have been for several centuries, right? Now there were some tough choices made, so we'll look into that. So we're talking about the proposed treaties, right? Proposed maps. So the Treaty of Sèvres in 1920 was signed after the First World War. Okay, so we know it was signed. One of the provisions within the treaty is that there would be a Kurdish state that would have been birthed by this treaty. However, there were some regions were able to hold referendums for independence. But we see Turkey, and I believe Hamid's, some of his questions, or comments, I should say, rather, signaled it to us that there would be some disconnect between Turkey and the Kurds. While between that pressure and additional outside pressure, the state that was proposed by this treaty of Sèvres never materialized. It was never created. So that's an important treaty for you to know and understand. The Treaty of Lausanne in 1923, just a couple of years after the Treaty of Sèvres, how it replaced that treaty, but as we just kind of talked about, the Turkish nationalist was now at the top of this effort for this treaty, and now we know Turkey feels threatened by Kurdish identity. The Turks did not want the Kurds to gain significance geopolitically or internationally. Thus, the proposed Kurdish state was scrapped and tossed from the treaty. There were some, it kind of led to what is happening today, right? It's creating the current conflict, right? The current question within the Kurd population, and it's still creating the Kurds, the world's largest ethnic group without a state. So a pretty important distinction there for everyone to remember. All right, here, let's go to, excuse me, Kurdistan divided, right? So we've discussed some of these treaties already, and we know the four big countries, right, that they are divided into: Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey, primarily. However, slightly under half, if not around half, live in Turkey. So, right, yeah, there's a lot of history there with Turkey. And the more you learn about the Middle East, and experience of mine, is that, like, the little island of Cyprus to, like, northwest of Lebanon, right? But it's in the middle of the waterway there. You learn that Turkey has their fingerprints on more and more and more of these countries and conflicts. So Turkey is a country that we will begin becoming incredibly familiar with, I should say. So the population was divided, and so was the rights and realities that these Kurds possessed in their new country, right? Whichever the four you were in, you were dealt a different hand of cards. First, let's begin in Turkey. The Kurdish rebellions within Turkey. So after the Treaty of Lausanne, you see millions and millions of Kurds were now residing there still, right? Even though it destroyed the proposed state, it didn't mean everyone was removed immediately, right? There was still conflict, and there was a reality of people within the country. So there was a early Turkish leaders aimed for strong unified national identity. Some revolts occurred in the 20s and 30s. Multiple uprisings were suppressed with violence and other tactics by the Turkish government. And once again, that Kurdish nationalism of hoping to get their own state rose, and the temperature was increased in terms of those internal feelings. So let's go to a couple of comments from our friend Muhammad here. The imprisonment of Öcalan is what restrains the Kurds, and for 28 years he has been under Turkish pressure and political corrosion. If President Trump were to put pressure on Turkey and free him, just as he once secured the release of Pastor Andrew Brunson, the whole world would see that the Kurds are not cowards. Both the Kurds under Iranian rule and those under Turkish occupation would rise in major uprisings and overthrow the regimes. They only need support and weapons assistance to stand by their side. Interesting points. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate you. Very thoughtful comments. Send a W in the chat for Muhammad, who is carrying a large part of the comment section this evening. So thank you, Muhammad. Okay, let's continue our slide deck, though. However, one of the more modern day, recent history, geopolitical enemies of the Kurds was the former Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein and Iraq, right? So we've discussed Hussein a couple of times on the show, whether it was the axis of resistance or axis of evil episode, I should say, the Price is Right episode themed, whether it in the Iran slide deck last Wednesday when we talked about the Iran-Iraq war and how when Iraq was overthrown in 03 to 06 is that the Shiite Muslims within the supreme leader of Iran viewed that as a rising tide lifts all boats, and so the Iranians saw the Sunni-backed government in Iraq fall. So we've talked about Hussein a couple times on the show, right? Additionally, the Anfal campaign, it targeted Kurdish villages in northern Iraq. There were thousands upon thousands of Kurdish civilians were killed during the campaign, right? We know, and we also know during the Iran-Iraq War in 1980 through 88 is that the Hussein, the United States knew that he was using chemical weapons against the Iranians, and so he held a similar pattern and belief with this campaign, and a really unfortunate situation there when it comes to the Kurds. But it fueled once again the Kurdish nationalism is that, hey, we need to fight back. Just a couple years after that, I should say, we're still looking at Hussein in general, but we are going to examine the Gulf War and Kurdish autonomy as a whole. It weakened Hussein's control in northern Iraq, so that's where, as we've discussed earlier, that's where most of the Kurds in Iraq live. That northern sector of the country launched uprisings against the Iraqi government. Additionally, U.S. and other allies were able to produce a no-fly zone. It protected military leaders, other Kurdish personnel to build autonomous institutions. And still today, and I believe we have a whole slide on Kurds in Iraq, but they eventually emerged in northern Iraq to where they still are today. A couple of new comments from Martin. Welcome back, Martin. Welcome back to the comment section, I should say. I'm sure you've been watching the entire time. However, we know Kurds are not cowards. Kurds are great fighters. If they weren't, they would have been annihilated. But the USA is manipulating them to DJ their dirty work. And Iran, just my opinion, Turkey will get involved if the Kurds were to heavily mobilize. Turkey hates them and sees them as terrorists. And Ahmed agrees. Yes, Martin, brother, it must not be, so we don't want to genocide as our Armenian brothers. Iraqi Kurdistan, wonderful. Could not be a more perfect transition from the last couple of slides. So what we really want to understand here is that this is the, other than forces in Western Iran, and this Iraqi Kurdistan, this is the jackpot for what maybe the United States or Israel feels as an assisting ground force in this conflict, trying to topple the Iranian regime, are these Kurds that live in Iraqi Kurdistan, maybe assisted with those that live in Western Iraq. Contains an autonomous Kurdish region. I believe they have their own kind of government. They have their own institutions. Yeah, governed by the Kurdistan Regional Government, the KRG. Capital city is Erbil. And some of these military forces known as the Peshmerga protect this critical region in Iraq. And, out of all of the four countries, we can probably see that this is the most legitimate or strongest example, strongest case of a Kurdish state in the Middle East. Let's go into some of the history real quick, right? We have Mustafa Fubar Zaini, this one of the all-time Kurdish nationalists, one of the top military leaders that the group has ever seen or produced, founder of the Kurdistan Democratic Party, was the spearhead in attempts of revolt against Iraqi government. The big time power player for Kurdish struggle and autonomy, and he was the big daddy for modern Kurdish political leadership in Iraq, right? So a very important key individual for you to understand about Kurdish history. And we have another individual that has been alluded to by Muhammad a couple of times tonight, I believe. Uh, Abdullah Öcalan, I believe is how his name is pronounced. I'm sure Muhammad is free to correct me if I'm wrong. However, and we're going to be talking about the PKK here soon, founded that party, a much different group and organization than the Democratic Party mentioned on the previous slide. However, is more of, maybe Turkey sees him as more of a thorn in the side, wanted Kurdish autonomy within Turkey. They launched an insurgency against the Turkish state in '84, led by him, right? Or his founded that party, the political party. However, was kidnapped / captured and right before the new year, or the new century, I should say, the millennium, after an international manhunt. So seemed to be a lot of people were upset with this individual, right? But however, regardless of what you think of him, as Muhammad has mentioned a couple of times tonight, that there is still support for him, or a supporting cast of players that are advocating for his release or freedom or something of that nature for him today. And I believe he's still living, though. I believe like he's still alive. He's still just held up right now. And he's just kind of been hanging out there. So pretty important key figure that day by day is imprisoned. So a pretty important leader in the Kurdish movement for you to understand. Right back to it. Let's go into what Abdullah Öcalan focused on the most, right? His crown jewel accomplishment was the Kurdistan Workers' Party, the PKK. Okay, and Muhammad says he is very old, but Turks play with his psychology very much. Huh. Okay, so like kind of torturing him, or like they torture him in jail or in prison. Yeah, that's not very, very kind, right? Yeah, that's not a very kind thing to do to people. However, led by this individual, right? There was an armed insurgency against Turkey in 1984, but as a result of that and other conflicts, the United States, European Union, and other maybe Western aligned countries or organizations do classify the PKK as a terrorist organization. And this conflict has lasted for decades and still going on, right? Muhammad says he is the only secular leader in the Middle East, and please believe he loves every nation, Jews, USA, and Europe. Let's jump into some more recent history. Just less than a decade ago. Can you believe 2017 was 9 years ago now? Isn't that nuts? We're in March of 2026 now. However, the Kurdish independence referendum in 2017, as we've mentioned, right, the Iraqi Kurdistan, the Kurds in Iraq, they seem to have the most legitimate nation constructed within those four countries that Kurdistan is in. A super majority, a 9 out of every 10 people supported this independence vote, and it was even supported and led by the president at the time. But the problem that they run into is that the other countries that they have large populations reside in will always veto the vote or veto any progress being made by the Kurds for their own independent state. Including Iraq, Turkey, and Iran all strongly opposed it. Why did Syria not oppose it, you may ask, as well? You had the Syria civil war. There was other stuff occurring within the state, and it really didn't matter what they kind of said, right? It was the other countries had unified against it. And even though the vote passed, the United States, European Union, the other Middle Eastern countries did not recognize them as a state. Kurdistan today. The Kurds remain divided between the four countries we have discussed. They do have the Iraqi Kurdistan, right? So that's a big takeaway that you should remember as a result of this little slide deck. There is some autonomy, if not ownership, of northern Syria. But now you still have the proxy conflict, right, between Turkey and the PKK, the Workers' Party. And we'll have to wait to see what the independent Kurdish state may or may not ever become. However, got one more slide for you. There we go. Let's tie this into why we were intrigued about the Kurds in general as a whole. Is that we hear maybe the Secretary of War, the President, the Vice President, other United States military personnel, government personnel, power players within the Trump admin have maybe signaled that the Kurds can become a leading force to launch a ground invasion, launch a ground attack into Iran to attempt to topple the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the standard Iranian military, other security personnel within the country. So that's why we're talking about them right now, right? There has been some discussion of joining the fight against the now just Iran. It used to have a more solid rock cemented supreme leader that has changed in the last week to 10 days. But and the U.S. has also maybe said, hey, we maybe can support you financially or militarily or something of that nature. Just please help us. And if they can open up that Western Front, then you're talking about why can't right now we do ground invasion? Because the Alborz and Zagros mountains within Iran, it makes it too difficult to climb over to enter the country that way. So you'd have to kind of parachute them in or something of that nature, and that's still tough, right? They might be targets. The regime could be preparing for that, so not the best idea, right? And we see that the Iranians, they understand that this could be a risk because they have launched drone attacks, ballistic missile attacks against Kurdish bases in Iraq and other critical infrastructure, other militarily sectors of their territory. So a pretty, we're just going to have to see how this goes. But hopefully you were able to learn a little bit about the Kurds tonight on this Awoken Wednesday. That is the last slide of the slide deck. We'll head back a full screen. Floor is open for questions and comments if you have any. I do have a little, I was scrolling around on Twitter today, as always, right? And I saw a video of Hillary Clinton. This is the second time in the past 3 weeks that she has started to sound a little different, I should say. Abnormal. What do I mean by that? If you were here for the episode about the Munich Security Conference, Marco Rubio's messaging at that conference, Hillary Clinton was also an attendee. And she mentioned, I believe she mentioned that for the first time that there is too much immigration or too much illegal immigration, and it threatens Western civilization as a result of it. And that kind of made your head, like, you're saying this now? It's been a long time since you ran for president. Just kind of different, right? Just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now we see her either last night, yesterday afternoon, this morning. One of the only things that she is on board with Trump on is bombing Iran now. Said that the Trump 2.0 is correcting mistakes of the first admin, or it's an improvement of the first admin. And if you see stuff like Hillary Clinton is on board with MAGA, what's that really mean? If Hillary Clinton is MAGA, what's that mean about the movement come March 2026 and the right wing of America? So just a little something. We'll go over Miss Clinton's. We'll play the video online for you, and I'll start setting that up at this moment. Well, you guys maybe have a comment or something. Awesome. I think that should be ready. All right, nice. Okay. We're going to play the clip of Hillary Clinton and I believe this lady on the lady in the pink. I believe she's on Fox News. I can't remember her name. She's on The Five with like Jesse Waters and Greg Gumbel. She's like the liberal at the table. She's like the leftist that is there to project the counter arguments against the hosts on Fox, basically. I think her name is Jessica Talrove, something. But we'll hear about what Miss Clinton has said recently.
I think all of that is a very good signal that there is beginning to be a better understanding, both by the president and the people around him, as well as by the leaders of our European allies, that there can be common ground amongst us. And the kind of dismissiveness that we saw in the first Trump administration has been replaced by a much more obvious working relationship to the good of European security, transatlantic security, and hopefully Ukrainian security. So I'm actually encouraged. I think all of that is a very...
Okay, so just wanted to hop through Hillary Clinton's little quote right there. We'll stop sharing this real quickly. And Ken says, Tarlov. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, I believe it had to start with a T or something. And got another comment from Muhammad. Even with YouTube videos alone, he could spark uprisings and bring down Islamist regimes because among the current leaders, he is the one people trust the most. Tracking. So interesting. Here, let's see if there's if any fans have texted in. Not as of right now. However, so that's kind of what, we've been doing a lot of morning streams. Wanted to keep this Awoken Wednesday. We started later. I wanted to polish a couple more things. Had some things pop up today as well. So I want to keep this one a little shorter. Want to make sure we can all get to bed at a decent hour at least. So happy to take questions about the Kurds or Iran or anything in the Middle East. Maybe we'll save the monologue for tomorrow morning on the stream. Oh, and yes, okay, yes, thank you, Ken, and thank you at Ronwin mentioned it as well. Much earlier in the stream. We saw, this morning was the last live stream we had with the long hair, or longer hair, I should say. It wasn't particularly like a, super long, but finally got it cut. And yeah, we are very thrilled. It's a big relief right now after in the mornings, right, it won't take a longer period of time for the hair to dry, for other morning mishaps, right? So yeah, glad to be with you guys on the fresh haircut. Finally got it. Now take off do a little bit of everything for you guys. But yeah, we finally got the haircut. Thrilled to that we have that my hair is cut. Have a wedding in a little over a week, so it was time. I don't think I had gotten it since before Thanksgiving, so it had been a long time since I've received a proper haircut. So thank you for the compliments and comments about the haircut. And a question from @Fred TM-E9F. Do you think the Clinton clip could be AI? There's always a possibility, right? But I've seen this for a little while now. I've seen it for probably a day at least. And yeah, it could be, right? But I don't particularly think it is AI, because we've seen a change of messaging from Hillary, right? She and her husband, they've been in the deposition readings about the Epstein documentation recently as well. So maybe she's trying to do some public favors right now for the admin, to avoid something in relation to the Epstein controversy. We've seen Bill Clinton as well a little bit recently. It looked like when he was looking through those photos, looked like it was like a high school yearbook or something to him. So there's always a possibility it could be AI, but I believe we would have seen, somebody would have called it out or said something by now. And I usually try to watch the video a couple times before showing it to people to ensure that it is authentic, right? So, very good question, though. It definitely, in the age of AI, right? AI is the future. We see Clawbot. A lot of people are using Clawbot now and other AI tactics to shorten and compress the workload in daily task and daily lifestyle tasks that they may be confronted with. So, but very good question, though, Fred. Thank you very much for the question. Thank you for being here tonight. Happy Awoken Wednesday. @Ronwin Ant says, handsome. Thank you very much, Ronwin. But yeah, happy to take any other questions or comments. Please leave the video a like. If it's your first time on the live stream, please subscribe to the channel. That's the best way you can support us right now. We'll probably be back with you sometime tomorrow morning. We'll do another live stream around DC. We'll talk with you, get to know you a bit, take your questions. I've been trying to, tomorrow's Thursday, right? So maybe wake up real early, and we'll try to go to like the Iranian embassy that closed in 1979, or something on Barracks Row, something on around Embassy Road, a different area of DC for sure. So, but yeah, I think we're all good for this Awoken Wednesday. We just hit over an hour. Thrilled that you guys were with me tonight. Thank you very much for your support. We are ascending rapidly in real time. Hopefully we can get to 500 subs by the end of this week. So we're going to be pushing that hard the next couple of days. And Ken says I'm at 470. So thank you to a new viewer that subscribed tonight. I appreciate your support. Thank you, Ken, for the updates. And all right, so yeah, we're going to see if there's protests this weekend. This will be probably, so the weekend after this is going to be a little tougher for me in terms of scheduling, because that wedding I got the haircut for is that next weekend. So this weekend might be, yeah, we'll try hit up a protest, maybe, yeah, do some man on the street, chit chat with people. But if not, we'll definitely see you tomorrow morning. We'll be somewhere in DC taking your questions, getting to know you. So I believe that's all the housekeeping I got. So once again, thank you guys very much for joining the stream tonight. I appreciate your support. We are growing something here in real time. And it's awesome that you are a part of this Awoken community so early on. All right, everybody. You have been Awoken with Aulden. All right, much love. We will see you in the morning. Good night, Awoken.